Welcome, everyone, to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. I'm your host, TJ, and with me again, as always, is the Grumpy Old Man. They say there is no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Grumpy, a lot of sports news to cover today. So we won't stall too long, but remember, before we jump too much into things, make sure you don't miss out on any of the action by subscribing on YouTube, following on Twitter, and liking us there on Facebook. We go live every single Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every single Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action, make sure you subscribe on YouTube there, like us there on Facebook, and follow on Twitter.
You already have two theirs already included in this, and that's our drinking game. As whenever TJ uses an erroneous there, take a shot. It's going to be tough to keep your glasses filled, probably by the time we get to the 5 or 10 minute mark. But, you realize you start every single podcast by saying there's so much sporting news, that's happened in the last couple of days. You realize you always say that?
Yeah. What's wrong with that? You have an issue?
I just wanted to let you know that you always say that. That's all.
Yeah, because there is a lot of sporting news there, Grump. It's what draws people in. And here you are saying, what's going on? Yeah, but it is. I mean, number one being Leo Messi going for his medical tomorrow morning. Looks like it's all but sure that he is going to sign with PSG. Looks like the number is going to be around 480 million pounds a week.
Pretty good money. You can get it. I'm not making that much for this podcast. That much I can tell everyone. Not that I don't deserve it. I'm just saying that's not what I get.
Well, is that really all you've got to provide on that? Just not too shocked. They're assembling a superstar squadded team there, or superstar studded team in PSG. Nothing like that. Comment on Grump.
They're going to have to move some talent off of there. It's so late though. I just don't know how they're going to be able to do it. I really don't. I don't know how many guys they'll be able to get for what they can get for them. I mean, I know they're going to have to sell on the cheap just to get people off their books or give them away or loan them out. I think they have a lot of work to be done before the season starts, like in next week.
Well, remember the transfer window. It just has to be done before the transfer window closes. That's another 3 weeks to have time to go ahead and financially maneuver some items away. There are rumors out there saying that they're willing to part ways with at least 10 different players. So just go ahead and let that sink in. Bringing in Messi. Remember, they brought in Ramos this offseason. They brought in Wijnaldum this offseason. They brought in Donnarumma this offseason. They have quite a few contracts they've added. Again, they were all free transfers here this offseason. But you're seeing right here, 10 players can possibly be on the way out. Most notably, again, Guy, there's Anders Herrera, I heard, was on the way out possibly. Mario Icardi might be on the way out if they need to. They're listing offers on those type of players. Those are all the rumors that are floating around at the moment.
Right. But my point is, you realize other teams know they have PSG over a barrel now. So let's say normally you get 50 million for a player. Now a team is going to offer you, we'll give you 20 because they're up against it.
Why does it matter?
Why does it matter? Because you have to be compliant with financial fair play. So
I'm saying, why does it matter if they have to go ahead and sell them on the cheap? They're bringing in quality players like Messi, Wijnaldum, Ramos, Donnarumma this offseason. I think it's all pretty much fair to say if they're able to stay healthy, that's the favorite to win Champions League. That's the best team in the world. Not even close for a second.
Well, that's why they play the games. So, PSG finds a way usually to lose when they're the favorite somehow. I've seen it many times before. I'm not saying that they're not capable of winning. I'm just saying that they find ways to lose. Having a guy like Ramos on there helps kind of change that DNA a little bit. Certainly not adding Leo Messi. That doesn't change that type of loser DNA. But having Sergio Ramos on the team certainly does.
Oh yeah, let your Real Madrid favoritism show through a little more clearly, Grump.
It does. I have to admit, but that's okay. But the whole thing is like, when you have to shed a certain amount of money to fit that underneath the financial fair play, that's my issue. Where maybe you could get 50, now you're only getting 20. Well, it's a lot more difficult to do that.
Why? Okay, I'm going to hit this again. I'm going to hit this one more time. Why would it matter to them? Because they're going to be in a spot where they could be competing for Champions League. They're going to be bringing in an enormous amount of money. If they're able to win Champions League, last year, remember they didn't win the league. They didn't win the French league last season. So go ahead.
Because they have to get rid of a certain amount of money to fit him underneath that. So, I mean, if one guy could give you 50, okay, now you're only getting 20. That means even more people you have to get rid of.
It's all about weekly wages. All those players are brought in for free transfer. I'll say it again. So it's all about weekly wages. How can you lower your weekly wages to keep under financial fair play for them? So it's all about being able to offload individuals. When Mario Cardi's making £100+ million a week, well, that's already a fourth of the contract that we need to go ahead and fit in Messi. So it's all about lowering the weekly wages, about getting players off. It's not necessarily how much you're able to get back in for them on the transfer side.
Okay, but the whole thing is most teams, considering a lot of these teams are right up, they have financial difficulties too with the pandemic. They're not going to be able to add 110 million euros or pounds in salary without them shedding players. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. It's going to be more difficult now than it would have been earlier in the transfer period. That's all I'm saying. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than we'll just get rid of this guy, get rid of this guy, get rid of this guy. Well, if you don't have suitors for those players because they can't fit them in their financial statement, it's going to be a problem. Okay. That's what I'm saying.
Guys like Icardi are world-class players. Same thing with guys like Herrera. They've got a lot of world-class players. Again, if you're going to sell them on a cheap, you're going to be able to get rid of those guys. Come on. You agree with me on that, don't you?
Yeah, but the whole thing is you have to make it work financially. And if other teams, they might have to, let's say Icardi makes 110. Well, guess what? Team A can only pay him 40. Well, then you're on the hook for 70. I mean, it happens all the time.
No.
Okay.
40 million.
Real Madrid sent Gareth Bale to Tottenham last year, and they paid the vast majority of his salary. Okay, you aware of that, right? So that means that money is
you're
still
aware that was a loan, right? That's not you selling the player. That's a difference. A loan, you hold a certain portion of the contract. If you sell the player, the other team's going to incur the entire contract.
Well, good luck selling the contract. That's my point. Not every team has that type of money. Not every team has that type of money. I think it's going to be more difficult than you think. Oh, yeah, we'll just shed these 10 guys. It's a little bit more difficult. And you want to know how I know? Being a Real Madrid fan and seeing them having to try to offload guys because they were losing money. I mean, it's more difficult than you think. You have to take a lot less when you're not in the position of power than when you are. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. You and I will agree to disagree on that point. I guess we'll monitor this over the next, 3 or 4 weeks as they're continuing to shed players' contracts. That being said, I do find it quite interesting. Messi wanted to do anything he could to stay with Barcelona. Remember, he took that original contract. It was only going to be 250,000 pounds a week. And when he goes to PSG, you see the price of Messi increases back to what his price was originally there at Barcelona. I mean, he was originally getting paid 500 million pounds at Barca on that contract before it expired. And he goes to PSG, he's getting paid 480 million pounds. So you see that his contract, his price has increased.
Yeah, pretty much. He took what? I don't know.
Half a pay cut, 50% pay cut there to stay with Barcelona.
Right. And, his press conference, he didn't blame La Liga. He blamed Barcelona on that. And that's a problem. Because Barcelona's trying to sell it like, they're the sainted angels, as usual. When it was, like I said on the last podcast, they should have known what they were dealing with. They shouldn't have looked for some type of exception. Just because they want to sign Leo Messi. You have to play by the same rules as everybody else in the league. You might not like it, but that's just the way it is. They were hoping that they'd get an exception. Leo threw them under the bus, in my opinion, kind of blamed them for that as opposed to La Liga, like Barcelona was trying to do.
Here's the big thing, right? When you talk about losses, Barcelona is expected to lose from last season about 487 million euros. So just so that sinks in. I mean, it's still well over 440 million pounds. That's a substantial mark of what they lost. And I think from where Leo was coming from in his standpoint, you knew what the losses were going to be financially. You had a feeling that you had lost a certain portion and that you wouldn't be able to keep Messi. You wouldn't have the funds to be able to do that. You had a feeling of that. You wouldn't be able to.
It's management by Joan Laporta. That's just what it is. She really dropped the ball on this, and that's what she'll be remembered for. She'll be remembered that she lost Lionel Messi.
Why not? Messi. What the hell is that? Leo Messi. Messi. What is that?
Don't worry. The way you butcher names, don't worry about me. At least
I don't know why you always call him Messi.
Messi.
Sound like damn Forrest Gump over here.
That's all right. I'm fine with it.
Jesus. I got a comment here from Eli saying, can't make it to the live, so I'll just drop in my question. Out of the current teams in the AL wildcard race, which two do you think will make the playoffs?
That's a good question, but you want something? I don't have the up-to-date standings right now, so I would have to look at that. Maybe we'll hold that for the end of the show if that's okay, TJ.
Grump, I will go ahead and pull that here for you. Grump. The thing I hate you do is as I'm pulling this for you, I need you to stall so I can get that question and get that pulled up, Grump. And you just are like, oh, let's just move on to the next thing. I'm gonna pull the information. You don't have to worry about it. I'll pull it for you.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the standings right now, and just looking at the league overall, you got to figure right. I think Oakland is going to be a wild card team. Man, but one with the Boston and the Yankees are certainly going to be it too.
So you think the Yankees might be able to find a way to slither in here?
Yeah, they're only
2.5 games back
of Boston. That's right. That's my point.
2.5 games back there from a wild card spot. Doesn't matter who. They're 2.5 games back from a wild card spot.
Yes, that's right. I think Oakland will make it. And I think the Yankees. I think it's 3 teams to make wild card, right?
2 teams to make the wild card.
2 teams. Well, it's going to be, like I said, Oakland will make it. I firmly believe that. And it'll be between Boston and the Yankees. That's who it'll be. I don't think Toronto has enough, but they're close too. They're only a half a game behind the Yankees. I mean, the AL East is always usually the best overall division, except you got Baltimore at the bottom.
So if you're putting your mark down, I know you've got right now Boston and the Yankees. Who I know you're a Yankee fan, but who are you predicting to go ahead?
I'll predict Oakland and the Yankees. I think Boston's really tailing. They're really spinning out right now since the trade deadline when their GM, who used to be with Tampa, one of those guys afraid to spend any money, he just wouldn't do anything to help the team. They were in first place at the trade deadline. He doesn't make a move. He makes a move for injured Kyle Schwarber when they need some pitching help, and they do nothing, and all of a sudden the team spirals. When you're not investing at the deadline, what does it say to the injured players like Xander Bogaerts, who's been playing through an injury for like the majority of the season? It says, you know what, you're not showing any faith in me. Why should I go out there and bust it? Now, they do get Chris Sale back starting next week, so that's an addition for them without a doubt. But I just don't like the message that the Red Sox front office sent to the players. I think Alex Cora is a great manager, by the way. Really, really good.
Also worth mentioning, remember how the wild card works there. You're going to have the 2 and 3 team in the wild card. They play each other in a 1-game playoff before they determine who it is. Again, so, technically if you want to include them as being part of the playoff picture, only 2 technical wild card teams make the actual playoffs, but 2 and 3 do play off to see who officially makes the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So what are we saying? Repeat that again, please. If you could. What exactly? So you're having
3 wild card teams.
Oh, so I was right. It was 3 wild
cards. One makes it, and determining who makes the last playoff spot, the second team in the wild card and the third team in the wild card play each other in a 1-game playoff. 2 teams make the 2 wild card teams make it, but 2 plays 3.
Okay. Oakland will make it. Oakland will make it. And I think the 2 playoff teams are going to it's going to be the 3 AL East teams battling out. I think the Yankees have the leg up on everybody else. I'm going to say it's definitely going to be the Yankees. and I'll go with Boston only because they have a bigger lead. I'll still go with Boston as with getting Chris Sale back. I think that's an addition for them, but I think they'll lose to the Yankees.
Is it a disappointing season for the Toronto Blue Jays if they don't make the playoffs?
No, I don't. I don't think so. Were you expecting them to make the playoffs in that division?
With the additions they made this offseason, bringing guys like Springer, I thought they were definitely going to have a chance to make a push for it.
Okay, you have Tampa Bay, who went to the World Series last year. You have a much improved Boston team, and I think the majority of the reasons because Alex Cora is back as manager. You got the Yankees, and then you got Toronto. So to say, okay, we got George Springer, who's been injured most of the year. I don't think the expectation should have been that, we're making the playoffs. They're competitive.
It's the same exact ideology I've got where you've got a Hall of Fame or an MVP caliber candidate there in Vlad Guerrero Jr., and you've got the pieces and bats around them, and you've added there to the pitching staff. I think they would have made the move there for Craig Kimbrell at the trade deadline, if I recall that correctly, too.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's another team that went out and made a move to try to make the team better, right? And Boston did nothing of the sort. And I think that's having a negative impact on them. I really believe so.
Okay, so to answer the question, you don't think that Toronto should have had expectations to make it? It's not a disappointing season if Toronto does not make the playoffs.
No, I don't think so. I just think that division is just way too strong. I mean, okay, at the beginning of the season, who was the favorite? It was the Yankees. Okay, then it was Tampa, then it was Toronto/Boston. I mean, to say that you're going to compete for the playoffs when you're like a third or a fourth in your own division, I don't think that says, oh, yeah, we're going to make the playoffs. And Toronto's had a good year. I really believe they had. But, you got three teams in front of them that are really, really good. To say that that's the expectation, I don't know.
I'm just saying, is it disappointing? I'd say it's disappointing. They've had guys step up on the team, and I think that Toronto would have wanted. So obviously every team wants to make the playoffs, but I feel like Toronto would have felt, hey, we've got a fair shot. And, if we don't make the playoffs, I think this is a disappointing season. They're still technically in the hunt. You never know what's going to happen, and both them and the Yankees are hot here over the last little stretch. So,
I mean, yeah, to me, Robbie Ray has been a godsend for them this year. He's been fantastic. Lights out. He's cut down on his walks, which have always been his bugaboo, where he's able to pitch deeper into games now. He's always had great stuff, an electric fastball. And this year, he's not walking as many many batters. So, I mean, it's certainly helped them where you don't get into that bullpen as early. I mean, they still have a shot to make a playoff run. But I just think if you would have said, oh, yeah, Toronto's one of the favorites to make the playoffs, I don't think that was the case at the beginning of the season.
Fair enough. Alexander chiming in. Hey, guys, hope all is well for both of you guys. I hope you had a great weekend. Also saying, boy, Messi signed rather quick, I shall say.
Had to. That wasn't going to be prolonged. The season starts in, next week. Season starts. So I know English Premier League and Spanish League starts, Friday for the English Premier League, Saturday for Spanish League. And, I think French is I think it's the same thing. I think the French league also starts next week. You want to get there playing with your guys as soon as possible. It's going to be interesting to watch PSG. It will be.
That it will. I'll tell you, and I'll mention it again. This PSG squad could be frighteningly talented. I think is the best way to put it. If you look at what their potential lineup could be, again, all that if they can stay healthy or not, you can have Mbappe up top. You could have Messi there towards the right wing spot, Neymar at the left wing spot. You could still fit Di Maria and the lineup in the fixture. Achraf Hakimi, you've got Verratti as well as Wijnaldum, and you got Kimpembe, Ramos, and Marquinhos in the back with Donnarumma in net. Man, oh man, you talk about a frightening squad. I know you say, hey, they find a way to choke everything away. I'm sorry, the midfield is stout, the forwards are unbelievably talented, and the back line is strong with an outstanding goalie. I'm going to say it again, probably one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie in the world.
I totally forgot that they signed Hakimi as well.
They was on loan there last year, and they officially signed him.
Yeah. No, he wasn't with PSG last year. He was with, I think he was with Inter Milan.
Inter Milan, that's right. Sorry.
I mean, I'm leery. I realize that Hakimi is basically a wing back. But man, I don't like that three in the back. I think you need more coverage back there than that. You might get away with it in the French league, but you play three in the back in Champions League, you're asking to get carved up. It's not a whole lot of defense in that lineup. That's all.
It just means that Hakimi is going to have to be. Hakimi will do a fine job there, making sure he covers back, and so could Di Maria. You're going to have those guys obviously using. They're going to be running quite a bit during.
The whole thing is they're all attacking players. Every one of them. Every one of them is an attacking player. I mean, I'm not saying that won't be a lineup that they put out there, but there's not a whole lot of defense in that lineup. That's all I'm saying.
The back line and the goalie is the defense, Crumb.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just saying that's a lineup that if I'm PSG, that scares me on counters. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I feel like that is the only thing that they could possibly be exposed to is maybe a counterattack. This is the way this team is structured. I'm not worried about them getting hemmed up in their own end and not being able to, break, through another team's side. I'm worried more about, hey, what does a counterattack look like? And are you going to be well positioned? If not, that's the only way I feel like you can carve up and score goals on PSG.
And Pochettino, that's not his style. His style is attack, attack, attack. So
that's exactly his style, no?
But it's not the ticky-tack style that Messi is used to. It's ball control. That's not the way they play. I don't know. Like I said, yeah, it's like a fantasy lineup, but let's see what it looks like actually in practice. That's all I'm going to say when they put them all out there. I just think they're kind of weak defensively. That's all I'm saying.
If they do not win Champions League, is that a failure for PSG?
Absolutely. For certain, that's a failure. For certain.
Who do you think it lies more on? Pochettino there or the players if they don't win Champions League?
Players. It's the players. They're loaded. Like I said, Ramos brings a championship pedigree there for certain.
Okay, so does Messi.
No.
Yes.
No. In big games in Champions League, Messi has shrunk from the occasion. I know they've won. That's because their team Barcelona was absolutely loaded when they won. He doesn't, and here's the thing: he's 34 years old now. He can't carry a team like he used to. Okay, there's only one ball. Okay, there's only one ball, and look at all the offensive players you have. There's going to be problems on that team. I predict there'll be problems with guys getting enough playing time. I really believe that. And you know what? It's not just going to be the Messi show. Let's see how he reacts when for the first time he's not. It's all Messi.
Okay, it wasn't the Messi show. I know he was the golden boy. He will be the golden boy at PSG. Don't mistake that. But remember, when they had the three-pronged attack there with Neymar, Suarez, and Messi, that worked out just fine. And now you've got Neymar, same exact scenario, and instead of Suarez, just swap in Mbappe.
Yeah, a little bit different. A little bit. How many years ago was that? Was that 4 or 5 years ago?
4 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago they weren't so good. But I mean, the last time they won Champions League was what? 2015, 2016. I don't know what year was it that they won.
Okay. Iniesta and Xavi were towards the tail end. I mean, Xavi, I think, was gone by the last time or maybe he was still part of the team. It's a while ago. I can't remember. But, Iniesta and Xavi were towards the tail end. They didn't have they never had a strong enough midfield thereafter. I mean, Verratti and Wijnaldum, both good and solid there in midfield. And you've got also Di Maria and Achraf Hakimi, who can also supply offense there and move the ball.
Yeah, Wijnaldum's not the player he used to be. Okay, he's over 30 now. Di Maria's over 30. I don't know how old Verratti is. I want to say he's getting up there as well. I'm just saying, before we pencil them in as automatic champions, I think we have to see how the new lineup works out. That's all. I don't even know if this will be the lineup. I don't know who made this prediction. It's a possibility, of course, but I think there's going to be problems. Well, you know what? I'm going to withhold judgment for right now, but I'm just going to say it would not surprise me at all if you saw issues with guys not getting the ball enough touches. That's all.
Well, we've got a question also from Alexander. Do you think the Mets will turn it around? Talking about the Mets falling off here as of recent. Over the last 3 days, the Mets dropped from first place to third place in the NL East. They just recently got swept by the Philadelphia Phillies. Yikes, yikes, yikes. The Mets are struggling.
their only chance to make the playoffs will be if they win division. Do I think that they're going to turn it around? I think they need DeGrom. If DeGrom isn't coming back till the middle of September, I don't think they have a shot. Carrasco's looked okay, but I don't like their chances right now. Philadelphia made some really good moves at the deadline. Remember the Mets also have Lindor out. When is he going to be back? I don't think he's close to coming back. Injuries have done them in all year, really have.
It seems like that's always the case with the Mets. Injuries, injuries, injuries. The pitching staff always gets battered and bruised. You look at what it looks like preseason. Oh, man, this could be an absolute stout pitching staff. This could be a stout lineup, but it always seems like injuries take their toll on the Mets more than other teams in the league.
Well, then maybe you need to look at your training staff a little bit harder in the offseason. I mean, I just like, for me, you look at pitchers. I mean, to me, the two injuries this year were for position players, oblique injuries, which, I mean, really, I never heard of a guy back in the day having oblique injuries. I mean, it's relatively new, right?
That's what Lindor's got, right? That right oblique strain. And they say he might not be back until mid to late August.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so another oblique injury. And then for pitchers, it's the forearm injury. Tightness in the forearm, soreness in the forearm. And it's usually a precursor to an elbow thing. And that's what DeGrom has now. DeGrom was a huge loss to them. You just roll him out every 5 days. That's a win. I mean, he might not actually physically get the win, but the Mets were always in good position to win whenever he pitched, without a doubt.
And not to mention, too, you talk about Javier Baez. He left today's game with left hip tightness. He left in the 5th inning there.
I mean, maybe their training staff doesn't know what they're doing. These type of injuries seem like muscle injuries. I don't think you should ever have a muscle injury. I'm not saying never, but for the most part, these guys are pros. I mean, it means, are you getting properly warmed up, properly stretched? Are you too muscle bound? I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it. It's like, but man, oh man, so many soft tissue injuries. I'm like, why? Particularly for position players. I mean, these guys should be stretching all the time. I don't understand it myself.
So the Mets, as of recent, have struggled. They have. Now, do you think they will be able to grab some sort of stronghold and make it back into the playoff picture there to win the division?
I think they need DeGrom. They're going to have to win division, because if they don't win division,
I'm going to be out until September. And this is just to give you a picture of what the NL wild card looks like there. The Dodgers are sitting in first there for the first wild card position. San Diego, second wild card position. Cincinnati close on the heels.
Yeah. I mean, I realize we still have 50 games to go or something like that, right? How many games are left in the season? Maybe not 50, 45, whatever it is. But we're getting down to, brass tacks right now. I think the Dodgers and San Diego are locks. They're going to be more to locks. Cincinnati has performed well. Now, at the beginning of the season, was anybody saying Cincinnati was going to be a playoff team? No. I just don't know. I mean, the Mets are going in the wrong direction. Atlanta's turned it around, right? They got Max Fried back, and he's pitched very well for them since coming off the DL. That helps them. Cincinnati has been a real surprise, and the Mets are going in the wrong direction. I mean, look at the last 10, right? Ever since, trade deadline, Mets 2-8. I mean, it's not good. Not good.
And I was wrong. I think they originally changed something up the COVID year. Remember, the wild card teams are just going to be the 7th and 8th team. So you're only getting 2 wild card teams in there. It's not like a playoff or anything like that, like I mentioned beforehand. So again, it's going to be those 2 wild card positions. So, okay. You're looking at the NL East, Atlanta, the Mets, and Phillies are going to be battling out down the stretch.
Oh, that's right. And the two wild card teams play one another, and then they go into play the 3 division winners. Isn't that how it goes?
Excuse me, can you say that one more time? Your voice is kind of.
So the 2 wild card teams play like a 1-game thing, and it's like a play-in game.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. But then you threw that other thing at me. I'm like, well, what the heck? Maybe I forgot. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So I think, like I said, the Mets are going to have to win. They're still in the same boat. It's the same thing. They're going to have to win division. So, I mean, that's the key for them. They're not too far out of first place in the division, though. But, man, oh, man, they really miss not having DeGrom there. And now they're not hitting. I mean, Philadelphia had to be a killer to see Wheeler go in and shut them out, complete game shutout. When he's on your team and, how many years did they have him and just couldn't manage to work it out with them? He goes to another team and he's great.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Did you know today they retired Roy Halladay's number? So, a little bit of, I guess, a little bit more meaning into this too, right? Before the game today, the Phillies retired Roy Halladay's number 34. Zach Wheeler retired 22 Mets in a row from the first to the 8th inning today to complete, for his complete game shutout. That's the longest streak of retired batters by a Phillies pitcher since Roy Halladay's perfect game.
I'm surprised they retired Halladay's number, to be honest with you. He didn't pitch that long in Philadelphia. I don't know why he deserved getting his number retired, to be honest with you. I don't care what they do, but it's like, how many years did he pitch in Philadelphia? I mean, to me, when I think Roy Halladay, I think Toronto. I mean, he spent how many years in Toronto?
4 years in Philly.
That's enough to get you a retired number. Unless
he did win one Cy Young there with Philly.
Okay. They've had other guys win Cy Youngs too. It doesn't mean they all got their numbers retired.
I wonder if it had to do with the accident, with the crash.
Well, that was
right or wrong. I was about to say, right, he only played 4 years in Philly, and you look at his work there in Toronto. Also won a Cy Young, had quite a laundry list of well put together seasons as well in Toronto. So it's kind of odd though to see Philly retire his number.
Yeah, to me, it is. I was surprised to hear that, honestly.
Yep, but moving right along here, back to a few more comments. Grumpy old man Alexander saying, Grump, the Sox are getting back Sale. If he turns back into his Cy Young self, watch out.
I wouldn't expect that, though. And I have a vested interest in Chris Sale. I've had him on my the injured list, disabled list, whatever you want to call it, all year on my fantasy baseball team. So I can't wait to slide him back in the lineup. I've been following his progress diligently all year long. I just don't know how many pitches. I'm sure they're going to limit him. I would think he's going to go 5, maybe 6 innings. He's pitched, I think, 4 or 5 rehab games right now, and he's done really, really well, but he's only gotten up to like 85 pitches. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it. I think he's needed as well for Boston. I mean, they need something to stabilize their pitching staff right now because they've hit the doldrums, and he could be the shot in the arm for them to get them into the wild card spot. I think it's going to be tight, though.
Alexander also coming through big, sending this our way, saying also, according to this BP study, Baseball Prospectus study, which I suggest you check out, the Mets players have suffered the 3rd most hamstring injuries in MLB in the past 4 seasons. They're tied in the 2nd most upper leg injuries, hamstring, quad, groin in general.
Right. I mean, so it kind of hits back on who's their training staff? What are they? They're obviously doing something wrong. They're not stretching out right. They're not doing the right type of stretches.
Their off-season workouts aren't what they need to do to make sure that they're limber enough to last for, an entire 162-game season. The list goes on.
Yeah, the soft tissue industries always distress me. To me, I always think it's like, you know what? Are you preparing properly for the game? And to me, that's a concern. It really is. You break a bone, you tear a ligament, that's one thing. But, man, soft tissue industries.
Injuries.
Well, even soft tissue industries.
You said industries 2 or 3 times. I'm like, injuries.
What can I tell you? I'm screwing up all over the place. What can I tell you? Alexander's bringing his A game today, and I'm just not, it seems like.
I'm about to say, Grump, you're sitting right now. F minus, Grump. No,
I got the Kyle Palmieri grade.
Alexander also said, Rojas is not a good manager. He needs to be fired. This team has no life. But I don't know. It's just frustrating and distasteful.
You know what? They've just had so many injuries. I mean, and that's out of the manager's hands. It really is. Like I said, Carrasco, they were counting on him from the get-go this year. And it just
makes Syndergaard to be back, and I believe it's like sometime in September. Early September, and they say they expect he was out there throwing today.
Right. But you know what? They rushed him back. You look at how the Red Sox handled Sale as opposed to how the Yankees handled Severino and the Mets handled Syndergaard. both Syndergaard and Severino suffered setbacks because maybe they were rushed a little bit too much, where Boston took their time with Sale. I mean, they didn't rush him. He didn't even start, doing rehab assignments until, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, where Severino was doing it, before July 4th, and Syndergaard even before that. I mean, it's like, okay, fellas, they're still coming back from traumatic arm surgery, and it seems like they rushed them back just a little bit, and you get a setback.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think
they tried to force Syndergaard into that rehab start there on May the 25th, and he had to be shut down due to tightness in his elbow. And they said, "Oh, let's go ahead and slow everything down again." So it does look like they tried to go ahead and rush him back a little bit, and that was unfortunate there for his time frame.
And for me too, because I had him on my fantasy team on the injured list. I carried him the majority of the year. Same thing with Severino. He was looking pretty good in his rehab games, and then he gets the groin injury, so it sets him back. But he'll be back soon, and it'll bode well for me going down the championship stretch for fantasy league baseball.
Oh, thanks for mentioning your fantasy team every which way you have a chance to. I do want to go ahead and let you listen here to Pete Alonso's comments after the game. Get you to weigh in on this here, Grumpy. Now, what do you think about Alonso's comments? Let me go ahead and play them for you.
I mean, there's certain times in the process where you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path, but you're just not getting the tangible results. So Mets fans, believe in us. And don't just believe, know, because there's tough times, not just in baseball, but in life in general. Know that this is just a speed bump and a challenge. And also smile. You get to watch baseball, even though it's a game. I know we have the most passionate fan base in baseball. I know that. And I understand that it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us, but just understand that we're here together. We're all in this together. And we got this. We got this. Just smile and just know that we got this.
Okay. Do you feel confident? I like Pete Alonso, but do you feel confident at all with that statement?
No.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I like Pete Alonso. I like where his thought process is, but that does not make me feel reassured as a fan.
No. I mean, first of all, I couldn't get over how big the hat was on him. Honestly, he looks like he's a 5-year-old who got his first hat, and they didn't have any kid sizes, so the dad gets him adult small, and it just still looks really big on him. But hey, he'll grow into it. I don't know if he'll grow into this hat or not.
It looks like he's got a small head too. When I'm looking at it, I got a big head. It looks like that guy's got a pretty small head.
Well, it's just the hat is too big. I don't know how big his head is, but the hat just looks way too big. But that does not instill confidence in me. He just should have, went to sports cliche 101 and just said, yeah, we're scuffling a little bit, but we're going to pull out of it. I mean, yikes. I mean, I don't know where the PR guy is for the Mets. It sounds like they need a new PR guy. They should be pulling on his pants or something. Hey, shut up. Let's go. I mean,
I think he was honest and genuine with his response, and I like Pete Alonso. He seems like a real nice guy. That's not how you answer a question like that. Hey, just stick behind us. All you've got to say is, we've got a group of guys in this room that we believe in. I know that, the results haven't been there. We're over here, trust me, tirelessly working, making sure our game plan is set foot. And we're going to be going 100% full tilt against whatever team we're playing after we just got swept by the Phillies. And that's it. You just walk off. That's the end of that comment. Boop. We're over there. We're working hard. We're going to get the job done. Boop. And you just walk right off.
When you come off a 3-game losing streak against the team that you're contending with for a playoff spot and puts them in first place, you should not be smiling. It's not a smiling time. I think that's going to put fans off. Why are you smiling so much?
Hey, man, this is just a baseball game.
We just have a
we got the ability to watch baseball.
You know who it makes feel really good? The fan who's, shelled out, him and his family shelled out the $300 for, $400 for tickets and drinks and hot dogs and a pennant and a hat, probably one too big.
Maybe a jersey too.
Yeah, whatever. And to see him like, yeah, we lost. Well, that's okay. We got 2 hits today. Yeah, don't worry. We're there.
Well, they had 1 hit and they were walked once. So only had 2 men on base, 1 hit.
Yeah. Wheeler Wheeler's really done well since he left the Mets. That's all I'm going to say.
Now, who's been most disappointing for you so far this season? Yeah, I know you're not a Mets fan, but as a Mets fan, I feel like the laundry list goes on and on with disappointing batters. A guy I really was hoping. Oh, Lindor. Lindor is always he's disappointing, but so is Michael Conforto.
Yeah, but Michael Conforto didn't just sign that a $300 million contract or whatever it was that Lindor signed. It's a huge contract. The guys who make the big money, they're the ones who have to produce.
Okay, I'm sorry. Conforto's got to hit better than 203 too.
Okay, you asked me who I thought it was. It's Lindor.
Okay, gotcha. Lindor, Conforto. The list goes on and on with disappointing batters.
Yeah, but he was your big offseason acquisition. I mean, you traded away a lot of stuff. You got him and Carrasco. I'm not going to throw Carrasco in there because he was hurt, but Lindor's performance has certainly been underwhelming. That much for certain.
Yeah, it has. It has. Moving right along here, got some football news. Want to talk about some recent contracts that have been signed here. Josh Allen signed a huge deal to stay with the Buffalo Bills. I'm going to be pulling that here for you in a second. He's getting around about $40 million, I think it is, a year.
$43 million a year for 6 years. And here's the thing, TJ. I have been saying for years, a lot of people saying Josh Allen, not good enough, not this, not that. I always felt that Josh Allen just needed a little bit of time. And that said, and I was proven right last year when he came through. I have a number of fans who are Buffalo fans and like Josh Allen sucks. I said, no. I said, just give him a little bit of time. He has all the tools. He's got every single tool that there is. He's got a full tool shed, everything. He's got a socket wrench. I mean, he's got everything. And last year, he finally turned around. He wasn't as, turnover prone. He didn't take as many chances running the ball, right? Still runs the ball too much for my liking. But that said, and I'm a big fan of his, I would love to see him do that 2 years in a row before you give him that type of money.
That is exactly what I was going to ask you. And this was the breakthrough season for Josh Allen because last year was like night and day performance increase. The guy beforehand, he's never had a season where he's averaged over 200 passing yards a game until this most recent year in 2020. And again, we knew it was going to take him time. He was a raw individual, but he never passed for more than 3,100 yards in a season. Last year, he burst on the scene throwing for 4,500 plus. You could also say, now he's got a legitimate wide receiver. He's got Stephon Diggs. That was a big help. He's finally actually got a wide receiver he can work with. He still runs the ball too much for my liking, but I agree with you. I would like him to have a little bit more of that longevity before I said, I'm going to make you one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. I'm not saying he's not one of the best quarterbacks or might not be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but for 1 year performance, yikes.
For me, it's not how long he's been in the league. I would like to see that level of performance for 2 years. Because, all right, you've hitched your wagon to Josh Allen. Buffalo, if he takes a step back or 2 steps back, remember, here's another thing. When they played Tennessee, I believe it was, in the playoffs 2 years ago, man, that crowd noise got to him. Or wherever they played. Who did they lose to 2 years ago in the playoffs when they had it? Oh, Houston freaking Texans, wasn't it?
I'll have to pull that for you.
I think it was the Houston Texans. And he had a shot, and it seemed like the crowd got him shook up. He's never played before big crowds and performed well, okay? Playing for Wyoming, not big crowds.
2 years ago, it was the Texans.
Okay, it was the Texans. Because I remember it was a dome game. And, you see him – last year, no crowds, right? No crowds. So you wonder how he's going to do with a hostile crowd. I just think there's still some questions to ask of Josh Allen. Like I said, I think he's extremely talented. I would have just loved to see him do it for 2 years before offering him that kind of money. That's all.
I think that's a good point, talking about the crowd and the away atmosphere, because you look in college, I played for Wyoming, not necessarily going to stir up some of the craziest crowds that they were playing against during that college campaign. And last year's breakout season did happen in a year to where all the away games were played with very limited crowd capacity, if at all any, depending on where he was playing.
Yeah. And, that's, to me, that's still a little bit of a concern. I hope he's a perfect Buffalo quarterback, though. Blue collar all the way. Blue collar all the way.
Wish
A
he wouldn't
perfect-
run the ball as much. I mean, he's the last 2 seasons in a row, he's had over 100 rushes every
and
single.
he's gotten his bell rung too. I had him on my fantasy team last year, so that looked good for me.
Wish you wouldn't run the ball as much. You want your quarterback to sit in the pocket if at all, ideally, or if he does run, please slide. I don't want you to take any hits.
I like
You getting your bell rung and having injuries really hurts because you're a guy who needs to be able to be a part of that franchise organization for a long time.
Well, the thing with him is he plays like Jim Kelly used to play, like a linebacker playing quarterback, and he's not afraid to take on tacklers. Where you see a guy like Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson or Mahomes, they're not afraid to run the ball, but they're not going to take an unnecessary shot. They're going to duck out of bounds. They're going to slide down. Sometimes he doesn't do that. Most times he doesn't do that, and that'll shorten his career.
Also, that being said, Darius Leonard is going to be the highest paid inside linebacker there in the NFL. Again, all pro caliber inside linebacker is getting roughly about $20 million a year.
That is huge. That is, think about what that does for inside freaking linebacker. Inside, and I'm not saying Darrius Leonard is a really, really good player, but he's still an inside linebacker. I mean, it's not like he's, sacking the quarterback or he's covering,
And then he's not a good coverage middle linebacker either. He does not excel in that. I mean, certain Mike linebackers and certain inside linebackers get, the rep of, hey, he does a good job there also in coverage. He could stick with running backs, running wheel routes. He could stick to tight ends, blah, blah, blah. This is not one of Leonard's strong suits, though.
And most inside linebackers, that's where they struggle. Is
and that's
covering.
why they play inside linebacker.
Right, that's right, because they don't have the quicks, they don't have the speed to cover those guys. I just think that's an awful lot of money for Darrius Leonard. And then you look at other guys around the league. I know Levante David signed back with Tampa, $12.5 million a year. Now he's older, he has a track record, but he can cover, running backs and stuff like that. Then you look at Tampa's other linebacker who's going to be up for contract in a couple of years, Devin White. What's he going to get? Because he's a real difference maker, that kid. Watch out for him this year. Devin White. He's on my radar. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Alexander also saying there, I was one of those people who doubted Josh Allen because I said the guy has absolutely no accuracy.
I disagree. I think the fact that he got Stephon Diggs made him way more accurate last year. I don't think his wide receiver core was very good. Cole Beasley stepped up. I think he was way more accurate last year. I just want to see him do it in front of crowds. That's the final thing for me. It's when it seems like it's a 11-on-11 with nobody in the stands. I just think it's a little bit easier. Buffalo's good, though. They're really good. They're better than Miami.
Oh, look at you trying to go ahead and go. Good old Alexander. Got a question. He also said, hey, Grumpy, what's your Mount Rushmore of Robert De Niro movies?
Ooh. Okay, well, I have some favorites. I'm going to leave out Godfather Part 2, even though he won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor on that, because it wasn't a De Niro movie. But I'm going to say Raging Bull for certain. I'll say Taxi Driver was really good in that. You know what? I'm going to throw Godfather Part 2.
He was not a big fan of Taxi Driver.
Who wasn't?
I wasn't a big fan of Taxi Driver.
He was real good in it, though. He was really good in that. For me, his first comedic role, Midnight Run, was really, really good. And how can you not like him? All right. Maybe I just enjoy it, but I love the Meet the Parents movies. I thought he was really good in those too.
So this is all your Mount Rushmore? You're expanding?
No, it's not much. I just enjoyed those. I guess for his best roles, you'd have to say number 1 was Raging Bull. Number 2 was Taxi Driver. Number 3, I guess you'd have to say Godfather Part 2, because he was really, really good in that as a young Vito Corleone. And I'm putting Midnight Run in there just because I like that movie so much. He and Charles Grodin had great chemistry.
Fair enough. I also want to ask you an additional question. Now that Josh Allen's getting paid like he is after 1 year of performance, what does that mean for the guys like, your Baker Mayfields, your Kyler Murrays? What does that mean? Is this going to be a recurring trend? Hey, if you could string together, Kyler Murray, you have to assume he's going to get paid more than Josh Allen, right?
I'm going to tell you what. Alexander and my hero, Tom Brady, made an interesting tweet this week when they came out with the values of NFL franchises. You saw that teams were complaining. That's why they had the flat cap, right? Or they had a reduced cap. And why? Because, teams were losing. They didn't have the money. But then you look at the value of the teams raised like 20%. So, and then Brady goes, the players are stupid and they're getting screwed. Now, he could just be saying that because he's at the end of the line and he doesn't have to worry about his next contract, even though he doesn't get paid a boat, like $25 million a year. That's what he gets. But when other teams, they listen to Brady. And when they say, gosh, you know what? The NFL teams are crying all the time. We don't have this. We don't have the money. Yeah, no, they have the money. It's $1 billion industry, and they certainly have the money. And it's going to be hard for them to say, hey, Kyler Murray, we're not going to pay you $40 million a year when already you have 3 guys making over $40 million a year. And how much does Rodgers make? Like 39? I mean, he's real close too, or 36, whatever it is.
Well, he just signed that new contract. He's the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Who is?
Aaron Rodgers.
He didn't sign a new contract.
He restructured his deal. Do you not remember that?
Well, he's still under contract. He didn't sign a new deal. He's still under contract.
He restructured his deals where he's only got 1 year left on the contract and now got paid out the ass.
Yeah, but I don't think he's over $40 million. I don't think that's what he's getting.
He's getting paid. I'm not sure. Honestly, I have to look into it. I know they went ahead and made it to where he can go ahead and have the potential out at the end of 2022. So I know he originally signed that contract where he was making roughly about, I think you're right, roughly about like 33 million a year. I think they changed it. They added in the buyout just as of recent, and they made him the highest paid quarterback.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing that the Patriots did with Brady his last year there. Same thing. So he's eligible to leave as a free agent. I don't know if they put when they negotiated that they aren't allowed to franchise him. Like that was the rider that was put in on the Brady contract. The Patriots could not franchise him, which is why he was free to go. I don't know if they did that with Rodgers or not, but I don't see Rodgers coming back next year anyway. If they gave him the ability to be a free agent next year, there's no way he's coming back.
So you think, though, Kyler Murray, and you think that your Baker Mayfields, all these young quarterbacks are going to start getting paid astronomical amounts. And I do think it's also funny. You talk about, hey, how most of these teams are earning, hand over fist. You see the value of the team increase at a significant margin. I think the Bears increased their like 16% of their worth. You're like, oh, I thought you guys said that's why you had to have lower the salary cap is because hey, we don't have the money, we don't have the ability to do that.
They're always lying. The owners are always lying about how much money they have and how much they have to spend. The NFL players are dumb. They get screwed all the time. They're stupid. Their union is dumb because it's run by ex-football players. What do you expect, honestly? I mean, and I'm saying that, think about of all the major sports, what's the one where your physical well-being is jeopardized the most? It's football. Without a doubt. And there you go. Players are ignorant. And he's right. For years and years, there's no way that baseball should have a stronger unit than the NFL. There's no way. The NFL is the biggest sport in the world, right? Well, all right, in the country, I'll say that. The biggest sport in the country.
Yeah, it's the biggest sport in the country, not even close for second.
Not even close. And they have, their union is just dumb. I'm sorry, they're dumb. The players need to make as much as they can. And I think Kyler Murray, he'll be a guy who makes over $40 million for certain. I don't know about Baker Mayfield, though. But Mayfield said he was ecstatic with Josh Allen's deal. He came out today and said that, oh, yeah, that's a great deal.
Because he knows he's about to get his ass paid is exactly what that is. That's why I was
right.
asking, what does that mean for Baker Mayfield's? What does that mean for Kyler Murray's? And here this is, right? Forbes' average value of NFL franchises are up 14% despite revenue drop, topped by the Dallas Cowboys. And this is what Tom Brady's comment was underneath. He said the salary cap dropped by 20%, and the new media deals were announced the day after the 2021 salary cap was set. NFL players better wake up. NFLPA, NFL players are ignorant. For certain they are. I mean, it's not just likely that, hey, we're going to go ahead and drop, hey, how much the value of our franchises increased the day after the salary cap is handled.
It just felt like that. Nothing was related at all.
It's completely coincidental.
Yeah.
Don't read into this. Don't read into this.
They're lying.
Over here, not over here.
I mean, I think the players should get as much money as they can. For as long as they can, particularly in football, because the careers are so much shorter there than in any other sport. Injuries play a great part. And so many of these guys have really debilitating injuries when their careers are over. Really debilitating.
Absolutely. Absolutely grumpy. Again, we're going to be moving right along here, though, because I want to talk a little bit about the NFL Hall of Fame class. That is going on at the moment. Quite a few interesting players making the NFL Hall of Fame in the 2021 class, as you're going to see Alan Faneca, Tom Flores there, Calvin Johnson, John Lynch, Peyton Manning, Bill Nunn, Drew Pearson, and Charles Woodson, as depicted above here.
Okay, can I look at some of those? I'll tell you who should be Hall of Famers and who shouldn't. If you could, Alan Faneca, offensive guard, no. Tom Flores,
Alan Faneca, you're saying no to
Hall of Famer? No, I don't know. I don't think so. He was good. It's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Great, not the Hall of really good. That's all I'm saying. Tom Flores, no. Calvin Johnson, yes. John Lynch, no. Peyton Manning, yes. Drew Pearson, no. Who's next to Drew Pearson? Steelers guy?
well, the Steelers guy is Alan Faneca.
No, the guy. Oh, he's a scout. No, absolutely not for a scout.
Bill Nunn.
No,
Bill Nunn was a scout.
No, absolutely not. Charles Woodson, yes. And there's other guys who I think they put in 20 guys.
No, 7.
No, they put it. There were 20 guys. This year's class. Remember, it was last year's and this year's.
That's right. Okay, so they announced the 2020 because I remember Palomalu was also in the 2020 class. So they did like the celebration of the 2020 class and the 2021 class together.
I mean, do you think that Troy Palomalu is a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
No.
Okay, you also said Alan Faneca shouldn't be a Hall of Famer. The guy was a 6-time All-Pro player.
Okay.
And then you said the Hall of really good. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler, 6-time All-Pro player. Alan Faneca was a pretty damn good offensive lineman. I know offensive linemen in your world don't exist or they're not that important, whatever you want to say there to it.
Not interior offensive linemen. They're the worst of the bunch because you're not good enough to play outside.
Edgerrin James was also in the Hall of Fame, too. I know he's in that.
I'm surprised by that one, too, honestly. I think Edgerrin James was a really good player. I don't know if he was a Hall of Fame player, but his speech was really good. His Hall of Fame speech.
Holy shit,
yeah, his Hall of Fame speech was excellent, though. That was certainly Hall of Fame worthy, and so was Peyton Manning's, by the way.
Oh, so hold on. I know what was going on at 7. Did you jump right from the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame speeches, right to the podcast?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Exactly what I did. His speech was Peyton Manning's speech was excellent today.
Alexander also saying John Lynch, no, Grumpy? Don't think John Lynch should be on that list.
I think he's overrated. I think he was overrated.
Let me ask you this. In your world, how many players are making, or how many players / contributors / coaches / whatever the hell, any position you want. I mean, how many of those should make the Hall of Fame every year?
Not 10 per year for the NFL. No way. And I've had that problem for years. Harold Carmichael got in this year. I remember watching Harold Carmichael play. He was big. He played for the Eagles, wide receiver. There's no way he's a Hall of Fame player. No way. Same thing with Drew Pearson. No way. He was a good wide receiver. It's the fact that and here's the thing. Guys who play on really good teams, they get in the Hall of Fame.
And
because you play on
because
the
they
winning
win,
team.
and you win Super Bowls. Of course,
That's
that's the
right.
reason why. And last year's class, the 2020 class, just so you remember here, Steve Atwater, Isaac Bruce, Steve Hutchinson, Edgerrin James, and Troy Polamalu.
Yeah. I mean, so many of those guys. Steve Atwater was good. He was a good safety. Hall of Fame? I don't know. To me, Ronnie Lott's a Hall of Famer. I mean, Steve Atwater could hit hard, but man, was he beaten in coverage an awful lot. Edgerrin James, he was really good. I don't know if he's Hall of Fame worthy.
He's 13th because he's 13th all time in the rushing list. Is the reason?
Okay. You know what helped? That he played with the Indianapolis Colts when they were throwing the ball all over the place. That benefited him, having Peyton Manning as quarterback with Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne out there and Dallas Clark. Yep. I mean, that's what made Edgerrin James so good. He had a pretty – and here's the thing. When he went to the Phoenix, we had Kurt Warner when they were really good, and they were throwing the ball over the place. They had Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, they had a lot of good players too. I don't know if he was ever, Edgerrin James, the guy we have to game plan for. You know what I mean? And that's why that's those type of guys who make a difference. And you got a contributor, guys who's a scout, absolutely not. Sorry, Bill Nunn, no. Charles Woodson, certainly a Hall of Famer. Drew Pearson, no freaking way. He caught the Hail Mary pass, the famous Starback Hail Mary pass in Minnesota in the playoffs. I remember that game. I watched it. And to me, he's not a Hall of Famer, though. Not a chance. Isaac Bruce, no way.
Really?
No way. His time when he was a really good player was short. You have to be good for a long time.
Alexander also saying that John Lynch is not a Hall of Famer is like saying that Steve Atwater is not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, they're both on the cusp to me.
We'll see if they're both on the cusp, but they both made it. Just took them a while.
Yeah, whatever. I just think there's better players. I remember Claude Humphreys made the Hall of Fame. He was defensive end for the Atlanta Falcons. He was good, but I mean, Hall of Fame? I mean, I think they're just putting too many Hall of Famers in every year. That's all I think they're doing.
You think Peyton Manning should have been in the Hall of Fame?
Yes. Sorry. He's probably the best regular season quarterback of all time. Regular season. Because when it counted, he wasn't that good.
And I will say this. I know Calvin Johnson was an excellent player for the time he did play.
Yeah, but you had to game plan for Calvin Johnson. It's like Barry Sanders. Yeah, they played for miserable Detroit teams, but those guys were so good, they outplayed the miserableness of their teams.
So you're trying to tell me Julio Jones is definitely going to be a Hall of Fame caliber player. You're going to tell me A.J. Brown's going to be a Hall of Fame caliber player. Like wide receivers today, and this is one of the things that I've always wondered. Wide receivers today are always going to put up crazy stat lines because they played. It's a pass happy league. You used to have to game plan for Antonio Brown for quite a bit. Is he going to be a Hall of Fame caliber player? I know maybe because his marred history here in the past, he won't. But anybody we had to game plan for on the wide receiver side is now deserving of a Hall of Fame caliber spot.
The wide receiver position has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Dramatically.
I don't know. And again, Calvin Johnson was an outstanding player. But, Hall of Fame, the guy only played, what was it? He played 8 years, 9 years?
Okay, you look at Mike Evans, right?
Is Mike Evans a Hall of Fame caliber player? Same question.
Not to me, he's not. Not to me, he's not. He'll be in the Tampa Bay Hall of Fame, but I don't look at Mike Evans and say, man, he's great. I mean, when you're on a bad team and you put up big numbers, but there's nothing really, to me, nothing stands out to me about Mike Evans. He drops a lot of passes, in my opinion. I don't watch him all the time, but it's like, I'm sorry. I don't care. Your whole game plan is predicated on getting Mike Evans the ball. You got to win some too. I'm not saying winning's the only thing, but you have to be able to do that.
He's the first ever player to record 1,000+ receiving yards for the first 6 or 7 years of his career. He's only 27 years old. So, even though you look at the end works he might have, his shirt might be there. I know Calvin Johnson was dominant for that time period. You would have to say Gronk is definitely guaranteed in. But like all these wide receivers that you see popping up now, DeAndre Hopkins is going to have to be a first ballot type of guy. You throw the ball a lot more. So all these, you're going to see a lot more wide receivers coming in then by this measure.
When's the next time you can see a running back go in, right? They totally diminished the running back.
McCoy?
LaShawn McCoy should be in the Hall of Fame.
He's the only guy that I can think is a running back that might be on the cusp of making the Hall of Fame is LaShawn McCoy, just because of what he did receiving wise.
What about Frank Gore?
Frank Gore has to be a Hall of Fame. Yeah, but he's still playing.
And
so is LaShawn McCoy, though, too.
Okay. Well, LaShawn McCoy's not playing anymore. That was his last year. And I think Frank Gore's retired now, too. But here's the thing. Have you ever said, man, Frank Gore is the best back in the league ever?
But Dan, that son of a bitch doesn't go away. He is the most consistent. He's the most consistent back that's ever played the sport.
Okay, but that doesn't mean you're a Hall of Famer. I mean, I think he's third all time on the rushing list.
Second.
Oh, second? Okay, even worse. I mean, and he's going to get put in, but if you ever say, gosh, man, that Frank Gore, I plunk my money down to watch Frank Gore play. Or, he's the reason why a team won games.
He's second. If he gets 726 yards, he'll be second. So right now he's third. If he gets 700 more yards before his career ends, he'll be third. He'll be second all time.
I just think it's really, really football is the toughest sport to quantify what's a Hall of Fame career for the most part, because there's 22 guys on the field at one time, and it's scheme specific. And that's why certain positions are highlighted more than others. I mean, you want to throw Fanuc in there. He was good. He was really good. I'm just like, okay, God, Hall of Fame. Oh, I just remember when his name was mentioned. I'm like, Hall of Famer? Okay, whatever. I mean, I just think there are other players that were maybe better, and they didn't play for a really good team like the Steelers all those years. So, they weren't recognized. That's all.
I will tell you this. Frank Gore, never an All-Pro ever once in his career. 5-time Pro Bowl caliber player. But you think about it, right? You talk about, hey, was he ever dominant? Was he ever dominant out there on the field? He was really good. I mean, for San Francisco there, that second year, he had 16, a little over, close to 1,700 rushing yards. But other than that, the guy was just consistently 1,000 yards here, 1,000 yards there, just collecting 1,000 yards at a time, chunk. I mean, if he plays 2 more years, the guy's 38 years old now. Hard to believe that he's still in the league. But if he plays, a year or 2 more, I think if he's able to get snaps and meaningful minutes, I don't think it would be crazy to say that guy couldn't get and amass another 700 rushing yards, putting him second all time.
I don't think he's going to make it.
You don't think we might not see 40-year-old Frank Gore running the ball out there?
He didn't play much last year.
No, that's wrong. Last year in 2020, he had 14 starts. He had 187 carries and 653 yards. I know. That is to me. He played for the Jets. That was a shock to me as well. But he had more carries with the Jets than he did the year before with the Bills.
Yeah, because the Jets are miserable. That's why. I mean, where's Frank Gore? Where's Frank Gore going to go to that he's going to get that amount of carries? I don't know. I mean, I remember when Chris Johnson had a 2,000-yard rushing season, right? He's not going to sniff the Hall of Fame, but he was really, really dominant for Tennessee for a number of years. Really dominant. And then he had the contract issue and that was the end. That was the end for him. I mean, here's the thing. Frank Gore,
his second year in the league, he was excellent. Yeah, that's right. I think it was. Is it still the most rushing yards ever recorded in the season?
I don't know.
That's one of those things I got to look up. But yeah, he did have a really, really dominant smash and dash. Who the hell was the smash character? Who the hell was he? I remember it was definitely Chris Johnson was the dash portion of it, but I can never remember who was the additional the smash portion of that team.
Maybe it was Frank Gore. He was playing
Lendell White.
He wasn't that great.
He did have a season with 1,000 yards rushing that time period. I'm just saying he was the smash and dash component. They, used the guy to smash down defenses, and they put, the quicker guy in there with Chris Johnson who's able to dash.
Yeah, but I mean, when I think Frank Gore, I'm like, yeah, he played a lot of years. I mean, it's not like say, yeah, man, Frank Gore he was a great back. I don't think anyone ever says that. He was good, really good.
All I'm going to say is when we're seeing players with these short windows, and Calvin Johnson was dominant, it makes me think, how many more of these wide receivers are we going to see that are going to be trickling in and fighting their way in the Hall of Fame?
Eventually, what you're going to see is really good wide receivers aren't going to get in because the wide receiver numbers are going to be so high that it's going to be, okay, oh yeah, you caught 1,000 yards passing for 10 years. Yeah, but these guys were catching 1,500 yards. So a guy who, if you put up 1,000 yards ages ago, like in the 1980s, you put up that many, you're going to get in the Hall of Fame. but now it's going to change because of the way the game is gone.
You got to figure Larry Fitzgerald is one of those wide receivers,
Yes.
no matter what, who's definitely going to be in. And again, Larry Fitzgerald was a little different. He had a little bit, I want to say his ceiling was a little higher than some others that are going to be on that list.
Yeah, but he's done it. He's put up big numbers for years and years and years, and clutch too. Clutches.
Alexander saying Isaac Bruce. No, you don't think Isaac Bruce could be in there?
He benefited from playing with Torrey Holt.
He benefited from playing with Kurt Warner, having that Hall of Fame. It always helps when you've got a Hall of Fame caliber.
Marshall Faulk. I mean, that's what I mean. It depends on who's there. Here's the thing. I don't think Isaac Bruce was any great shakes anywhere else he went. I mean, he was good, but they had a whole bunch of good wide receivers. Like Julian Edelman. Do you think Julian Edelman is a Hall of Famer? I don't. I mean, but I'll tell you what. No one was as clutch as Julian Edelman, right? I mean, and the whole thing with, with the Rams back then, it was the greatest show on turf, right? I mean, that was the whole thing. You had Mike Martz as Vermeil was the coach, and you had Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator. And, they were fantastic, almost impossible to stop.
Well,
running gun offense, right? I mean, until the Patriots played them and shut them down and started the greatest dynasty football's ever known.
Alexander also saying Zach Thomas needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
No, I think Zach Thomas was a great player, really good. He should be in the Dolphins Hall of Fame, but not the NFL Hall of Fame.
Want to move
really, here's a really good player though, but it's not the Hall of really good. It's the Hall of Fame.
I want to show you this clip, and we always talk about how the game has changed. This is CBS's old clip there, an intro from 1977. And I just want you to take a look at this clip, and we're going to see how many of these are now current day penalties, Grumpy.
Oh, yeah.
Brown 5. Brown 45.
Oh, that's a penalty.
Defensive receiver. That was a penalty, though. They did call a penalty on that.
A stepping on the back definitely would have been a penalty today, too. Go ahead, Grump.
The NFL was just better back then. Way better. Clothesline. That's great stuff.
Clothesline would have been penalty, too. Just go on a venture out there to say that would be unsportsmanlike.
This is what they're pushing.
Ooh, that was a little face mask, the 15-yard ride.
Phillies George was the first girl in the pregame show. Willie Brown. That's Willie Brown right there. They had Jimmy the Greek on there. Yeah, that's good stuff back then. And here's the thing. That's what they were promoting, right? Violence. It's great. People went to see it. It worked.
Yeah, it did, though.
People are promoting it. People love the violence. They can say they don't, but everybody watches.
That's why they'll never get rid of fights in hockey. That is
They shouldn't. They shouldn't.
That's why it will never go away. It's always a fan favorite. I did want to show you that because every time I see that little bit, I always get a little chuckle. Also,
let me tell you something. I watch old football games, and I'm like, man, that's a penalty today. That's a penalty today. That's a penalty today.
Romelu Lukaku officially moved back to Chelsea, 97.5 million pounds. It's been completed there, or nearly complete. It's going to be finished here. He is number one in transfer fees for any other player compared in football history. Just look at this little display, grumpy old man. Man, oh man, quite a bit of money that has been shed out there for the services of Romelu Lukaku throughout the years.
Well, that's what happens when you move from club to club to club to club. I don't think he's that good. He's a good player. He's good, but he's not a difference maker, in my opinion.
Okay, here's a question for you. You talked about the value you thought was way too much of an overpay for Jack Grealish. Do you think this is way too much of an overpay for Romelu Lukaku?
I think it's an overpay, but not as much as for Grealish. This guy's done it. He's done it before. Grealish hasn't.
Oh, you don't think Grealish has done it before?
No, he plays for freaking Aston Villa. They were 2 years ago. They were in the B League.
Yeah, championship league.
Yeah, they weren't in Premier League. I mean, no. And I'm not saying Jack Grealish doesn't have the potential to be a really good player. He does, But there's no comparison between what Lukaku's done on the big stage as opposed to Grealish. You saw the thing where they're trying to jam him in a suitcase and get rid of him.
I did see that. And we'll have their Thursday upcoming predictions for the EPL, what we think the table might look like as the league play draws closer. But do you think this helps Chelsea for their stake as maybe winning the EPL, bringing in
It improves their chances. Yes, it improves.
Because remember, Werner, who they brought in last year, Kai Havertz did what he did, playing almost as a cam in that role, but Timo Werner did not fill the shoes they were hoping for at striker for them. And
it makes them a
Tammy Abraham never did either. And I think this is them trying to say, hey, now we've got that rock up there at striker.
Yeah, that's his role. And you're right. Havertz is going to be a star for them. You're right. The other two guys did not work out in the middle. And Lukaku should help them. Yes. It gets them closer to Man City. Yes.
Absolutely, grumpy old man. Hey, I know there was a lot of sports news. We covered a good bit of it. We are going to be going live again on Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Grump, what do you have to say before we wrap things up here today?
I want to say thank you to Alexander for participating in the podcast today. And I just have one other thing. I said the Olympics are over. And did they ever really happen? I don't know. I just think there was kind of lackluster. No one cared about the Olympics. I know I didn't.
I didn't either. I watched a little. I wish I would have watched more of it now that they're over. It's kind of like, one of those remorseful things, but in a week or two, I won't even be thinking about that. I'll be more focused on NFL and getting ready for the NFL regular season.
Me too. I can't wait for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to repeat as champion. Here's the thing. I'll say this about the Buccaneers. I don't know if they'll repeat, but I think they're going to be better this year than they were last year. But that doesn't mean anything can happen when, injuries and when you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. But I think they will be a better team than they were last year. But I do want to say love and laughter to everyone who listened and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
And thank you everybody who tuned in and listened today. Remember, best way to show support there for myself and Grumpy Old Man is making sure you subscribe there to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man on YouTube, making sure you follow us there on Twitter and like on Facebook. Thank you everybody who tuned in. And thank you again, Grumpy Old Man, as always.
My pleasure.